We knew that healthcare in Mali was some of the worst in the world. We see children that come and parents that you say the only care that's available for your child is in Bamako, and they have to choose between, do I pay $40 to go to Bamako to have my child taken care of and not having food to feed my family for the rest of the year, as are their choices to allow the child to die. And it's those kind of things that we see over and over and over. We know now, statistics came out the last year that have a mother's index. And a mother's index tells you, looking at world statistics, how easy it is to be a mother as far as her own health and the health of her children. And Mali and Burkina Faso were last in the world.
The terrible loss of life with mother and babies was always a hard thing for me. 1 in 4 children never reach their 5th birthday. And so we started to think, well, what can we do to change, to make a difference? And I know Mali's a big country, but we can do a little bit. The vision came to build a larger facility where we could take our ladies who needed to have surgery and have better outcomes. In 2003, when the director of the Bible school lost his wife very sadly through childbirth, then we realized more and more that this is really what the direction we should take.
She should have delivered normally. She'd had all of her other deliveries normally. Bethel Bible School had a trained birth attendant there, and so she planned on delivering at the Bible school campus here in Kuchala. But something went wrong, and she wasn't delivering, and so they came and called Joan and asked Joan to come and check, and Joan said no. She examined her and said the baby's head's too big. It cannot deliver. Joan took Annie to go to this clinic, hoping that they'd do a C-section, but instead they decided that they could probably push on the top of the belly and force the baby through the birth canal. And so they started pushing. Joan said, no, you can't do that. They kept doing other things. Finally, they said, asked Joan to leave the room, and she's quite certain at that point in time that they really tried to give a big push, and Annie started to bleed. She was hemorrhaging so bad, they did deliver the baby and got a live baby, but they did not stop the hemorrhaging, and Annie died on the operating table in Joan's arms. Within the next month, 4 ladies from the Kuchala church all died from complications of labor and delivery. And it was as though that was God's voice to Joan saying, Joan, the vision that I gave you is something that I want to do.
And so we proceeded and trusted God to provide the land and the well and the walls, and then the first facility and the second facility. And over he provided the funds that were necessary for the construction of this hospital.
I wasn't even a week here, and I was there right at the brothel with them. And it just, again, it was like shot in my heart, that I said, God, what a kind of life. I tried to find out, why are they here? So if they say, okay, I'm from Nigeria, I'm from Lagos, then I said, what are you doing in Mali? And then I have to say, 9 of the 10 is being trapped.
I was in Nigeria staying happily with my husband. I have problem of shared bearing. So I met somebody, he said that I can solve my problem in Holland, that he will consult the doctor that will do my operation. He charged me 465,000 naira to go to Holland. So we'll make arrangements with my husband and everything. We don't know that the person is lying. So when we reached to Bamako, he lodged me into a hotel, said that I should stay here. I'm paying the cash. After 1 week of staying here, the man now came and said, the journey is too far, that we cannot go again. Now the air ticket is increased. The money paid is too small. What will we do? I phoned my husband, said, look at what is happening. He said that he don't want to know. Then he said that my problem is off him. It's a very big shame that if I don't solve that problem, that I should not come back. I don't see money to go back. Now I cannot have my husband back. I'm all alone. I don't know what to do. Now I joined a prostitution because of this problem. Karina know my problem. He used to pray with me every time. He said that one day God would do it. So we believe on God.
We have touched, I think, a lot of girls' heart with the love of Jesus. So far, we have seen 5 that really left prostitution, but I have to say that 2 of them are with the Lord because of AIDS. And I reflected on what we often say, what would Jesus do? He would walk between those girls, and teach them and try to get them out and try to offer them something better. Right now, I have a dream and a vision for kind of a halfway house for them. I always try to say to them that God loves them. If I see that they are open to talk, I ask if I can share something from God's word.
I don't think of entering this type of work. It's not my destiny. Being prostitution is not a good thing. It's not my destiny. I want to serve my God. But in a situation like this, I don't know what to do. I pray to God to help me, so I believe that one day God will see me through. It's not my destiny. Being prostitution is not a good thing. It's not my destiny. I want to serve my God.
A couple of years ago, the Alliance had the theme Ordinary People Empowered by an Extraordinary God. And we've embraced that as our own. We are not super Christians. We're not special in any way. We said we were willing, and God allowed us to be a part of His project.
If He'd have shown us in the beginning exactly everything that we were going to be doing to this date, we'd all run screaming. We'd have said, you've got the wrong people, we're too small,
we don't have the time,
we have full-time jobs, we have families.
We don't know how.
Yeah, we don't know how. God didn't do that because He knew how would we react. So He's just drawn us little by little to show us what we can do if we're just willing, if we just listen to His voice and take those steps. And He can do that with any church. You just have to be willing, you have to look where God's working, you have to join in. And don't try to figure it all out. He's got that all under control.
Getting involved with missions in any way, especially having the opportunity to go to a mission field, opens up your eyes to something outside your own community. Gives you a larger vision. He's opened up our eyes to the needs of other people.
And it's become even an outreach as the other churches come in for the work days and they bring women with them. They'll tell them what's going on, and that women that are unchurched and don't know the Lord still come, and they think it's exciting to be able to assemble the mama packs, and we sit down and have lunch and pray and talk about how the Lord is working in this project. So they it's an outreach, and they get to hear about what God's doing around the world.
I don't think there's a plan for saying, okay, this is the step you need to take first, second, third, and fourth. You need to hear and feel in your heart where God's calling, and not come up with the reasons why you can't do it, but say, okay, let's see where this goes. And certainly if it's not God's intention, that door will close in one way or another. What happened with us is He just kept opening doors, and we were almost in our ignorance, stepping through them one at a time. And God's never, ever, ever let us down.
I'm Chris Folkstead, youth pastor at the Alliance Church of the Valley in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. I went to Tanzania. We went there to put in new wells as well as to share about the living water, Jesus Christ. Caden has always liked looking through my picture book from my trip to Africa and has always been interested in the elephants or the giraffes. But I hadn't had a conversation with him in quite a while about Africa, and then we're driving in the car. Pretty much out of the blue, he just said,
Dad, do you know there's not very many churches in Africa?
it was an odd question for him to ask, I thought.
Caden, how did you know that there wasn't a lot of churches in Africa?
God told me.
I said, well, what do you want to do about it?
Raise money for the church in Africa.
He said that he needed a lot of tools, he needed friends to come and help him, he needed his uncle to come and help him build it because he's a great builder. It was cool for me to hear that, but at the same time I was not really thinking, wow, this is something we could really do. I just thought, this is a cute thing that my 4-year-old is saying in the back seat. Last February, our church was hosting a Worship in the Word weekend with Dave and Tara Powers. On Friday night, Dave asked me if I thought it would be okay if Caden came up and shared his story with those who were at the prayer retreat. He and Dave went and stood on this large map that was laid out in front of the church, and they went and walked around Africa. And Dave told different stories that he had seen and he had known about that was happening in Africa. Dave asked Caden just a few questions. He said, Caden, I heard that you want to do something in Africa as well. What is that? And he said, I want to build a church in Africa so that people can know about Jesus too. Part of what we were doing that night was reading through the Psalms, and Dave said that he reminded us that we need to be not just hearers of the word, but doers of the word. The point in the Psalm came where it said, bringing your gifts to the Lord. And pretty soon, these 100 or so people that were gathered at this retreat started coming forward and laying cash and checks and change. In the course of about 5 minutes, our friends, family, church, and community had given almost $3,500. We were just taken back and so excited about what God was doing. Over the next couple days, I received proposals really from 3 different countries in Africa. My wife and I and Caden had an impossible decision to make. Where would we build this church? We prayed about it, and the one that we kept being led back to was building a church in Mali. They had 2 churches available for us to build. We figured it was going to be around $6,000 to do both of them. And if we could raise $3,500 this quickly, we can raise the rest of that money as well. Much of the money that's come has come in from children and families. His friends have been able to help him do his lemonade stand. 2 of Caden's friends brought their allowance money and wanted to give it to help build these churches. One of our good family friends came up to me and he said, our daughter Hannah said, when we're done raising money for Caden's churches, do you think it would be okay if we raised money for houses? Because I think they need houses in Africa too. So I wrote the missionaries another email, and they said, the next church that we're going to be building doesn't have a home for the pastor to be living in. It would be great for us to be able to put a house there. Hannah kind of joined the team. So now there was 2 4-year-olds that were out telling their story, raising money for churches and houses in Africa.
Thank you for helping build a church.
Knowing now that these children have a place to meet and their families have a place that they can come to in their own village to sing and to worship and to hear about the Lord is amazing for us. knowing that when we're gathering in our church in St. Croix Falls, that there's also 2 churches in Africa that are gathering as well. They're worshiping the same Lord, and that Caden was able to be a part of raising the funds to build those churches. If God is giving you a dream, whether it seems small or seems impossible, I hope that this story is a reminder to you that God speaks to children, that God answers prayers. Be encouraged and know that God can do very big things through you.
Bye-bye. Toodles.
In my village, many boys never reach adulthood. Because of a curse on our people, I lost 4 of my own sons. I was a traditional healer and used medicines and made sacrifices to try and ward off the evil spirits, but nothing seemed to work. When my 5th son, Omar, started to develop a large tumor on his face, I knew that the curse would take him too. It was a hard time for our family. Omar kept to himself. He wore a mask to cover his face, but the children made fun of him and called him Longmouth. People wouldn't come near us because we were cursed. One day, I heard that a group had come to our village and that they were going to show a movie. I never left home anymore, but for some reason, I knew I had to go. The movie was about Jesus. I saw him heal people, and for the first time, I had hope that my son might too be healed. I went to find Omar and took him to the church people. They prayed over him and suggested that we come with one of the doctors back to Kutiala Hospital, where they might be able to help him. Omar was treated so differently here. At home, nobody would touch him because of his smell and the flies that followed him. Here, they would pick him up, play with him, hold his hand and walk with him. I had never seen love like this. I thought to myself, if this is what Christ's followers are like, then I want to be one of them. Omar and his mother would often listen to Bible stories, and they both decided to give their lives to Jesus. After the first surgery, it was clear the tumor was gone. My son had a curse, and God overcame it. I was so excited to pray with the pastor and become a Christ follower myself. The villagers couldn't believe this was the same Omar. Now he's a normal boy, and the other kids play with him. He can't stop telling others about Jesus. Neither can I. I'm so happy I can't help it. Because of our testimony, 6 people in our village have decided to follow Jesus. We invite them to our home, and they come. We show them the love that God has shown to us.
I used to work as household help. The man who employed me got me pregnant and refused to help me and the baby. My family was ashamed and sent me away to fend for myself.
There are many children in my family, and my parents couldn't afford to feed us all.
My father sent me here to be a house worker to make money to send back. In the local dialect, our girls are called jomusos, which is slave girls, and so that's pretty much how they're treated. The Lord had always given me a heart for these young, vulnerable girls. We actually just started a prison ministry, started doing Bible studies in the women's prison, and I thought we were going to be meeting with 40-year-old women, you know, like for thievery and things like that. And here we walk in the first day, and it's like a room full of teenage girls, and most of them had committed infanticide, so they'd abandoned or murdered their babies, just out of desperation. The first time I met Geneva, I knew what we were going to see wasn't going to be easy. We walked into this little mud squatter's hut. It was half mud, half old plastic bags. She was laying on the ground with her baby on a mat. I think she just had her within the last 24 hours. We were able to explain a little bit what our program is and that we help girls like her. And so then she really opened up to us and kind of shared some of her story.
I never knew my mom and dad. My grandmother raised me, but she was a hard woman and she beat me. At the age of 15, I ran away to make a better life for myself. I had nowhere to turn, and out of desperation, I entered a relationship with a man. He wasn't a good man, but at least I had food and a place to sleep. One day, I started to feel sick and didn't know what was wrong. An older woman told me that I was pregnant. When it was time for the baby to be born, the father told me he was done with me. When I was a child, I dreamed about growing up, getting married and having children. I never thought it would end up like this. I really wanted my mother to be there with me. I had nowhere to take my baby home to. The woman from Hands of Honor had heard about my situation and wanted to help me find a better job and better living conditions. They bring me food and help care for our needs. These women have loved me in a way that no one ever has.
Probably one of the most powerful things for her has been to have a community. Now she goes to one of our house girls that lives a block away. She helps her give her baby Nana a bath. And so just teaching her, and that just to have this community of other house girls has been something that's been really valuable for Geneva. And to know, like, if she gets in a situation where she really can't take care of her child, that there's somebody that's going to help her. My dream is, let's just expose the girls to the gospel. Let's expose them to Jesus through our center. And if they come to faith, that's awesome. But even if they don't, we've planted that seed, and they're going to go back into their villages and into these communities. And our hope is that the word is going to spread through our girls.
I hope life gets better, especially for my little girl. I want her to grow up strong, to go to school and get a job. I want her to have the chance of a better life.